Welcome to your Tiny Week Ahead reading. I am T from Tiny Cheeks Tarot, coming in to break down the cards, the energy of the week, what we are to expect this week, and some words of wisdom. So, here are your piles for the week. Take a look, take a deep breath, see what is drawing you, pick a pile or piles, and I will see you in your reading. Okay, pile one, welcome into your Tiny Week Ahead reading. The card you picked is the Mermaid. The Mermaid is your wisdom for the week. Look below the surface of your emotional reactions to know what is really going on, for things are not always as they seem. Okay, so those are your words of wisdom. And let's get into your energy for the week. So we have the Hearth, Spring, and Peace. So, getting into the energy of your week, it definitely feels like things are getting started. There's newness in the week, there's things percolating. You have the energy of spring and the flowers. You also have the flowers and the hearth card. And so, there's definitely beginnings of things happening this week, the energy of things getting started. You have the hearth card as the first card that we got. So, it may be involving things involving your house or moving, having a new home, new location, adding new things to your home, freshening up your home, things like that. You may be thinking about that. We also have these couples in all of these cards. So it may have to do with relationship. It looks like there's like a lot of relational energy this week in your week. So it may be dealing with situations where the people with whom you live, or the people you have relationships with, especially like romantic relationships, close relationships with. It also feels like the energy of this week, there may be with the justice card, some amends happening this week, or some places where you may need to apologize, or someone's apologizing to you, or we're kind of coming together to like, figure shit out, or like something like that kind of energy. Especially with the relational energy that we have in the beginning of the week. Like, we just may hit a road bump at some point in the week where we may need to come back together and, make amends, or make peace kind of thing. It also feels like the energy of your week is just, like I said, warm. It feels like things are happening. It feels like nice. It doesn't necessarily, without this bump in the road at the bottom, it just gives a very like warm, youthful, hopeful, optimistic kind of energy. So let me pull some more cards and see if there's anything else that is in the energy of your week. And if not, we will get into some specific things that may come up this week. Okay. Could not think. Okay, so again, we have a number of ones. So it definitely feels like there are things starting for you this week. There are things beginning. There are ideas that you can get off the ground, or that you can start to put more energy into. So definitely utilize the energy that's there this week. So other than the ones, we also have the flare card, the 10 of fire. This to me draws back to the mermaid card and the wisdom we had for the week. Look below the surface of your emotional reactions to know what's really going on, excuse me, for things are not always as they seem. So if there are situations this week where your temper is flared, where you get upset about something, really look into what's happening, especially like we talked about with the relational aspect of this. It feels like there definitely may be something this week where you pop off, or somebody else pops off on you, and it's more to do with something else, not the actual situation that's at hand, but that it can get a little contentious, and that, like I said before, we may need to like come back together and apologize or make amends, or whatever it is. We also have the breathe card. So like, Don't forget to breathe this week, right? Don't forget to bring yourself back into your body and figure out what my intention is. Sorry, there's a helicopter coming over right now. Not to figure out, or excuse me, to figure out what your intention is before you say things, before you speak, before you react, before you let it read on your face, kind of thing, right? This is what it feels like the energy of the week is to me. Like I said, it basically to me feels really good and like things are starting and feeling new and fresh. And also, we have this energy of, um, a little bit of hostility or what could be frustrations or angers. So keep that in mind. Remember to breathe. Remember that whatever you're feeling has a deeper root to it. So, like, dig deep and see what's going on. Okay. Let's get into any more specific things that will happen for you this week. So, for the first part of this, we'll use the power of the surrender cards, and then I'm going to use a few charms just to see if there's anything else we need to get into. Okay. Okay. So we have surrender to spirit. Once you've done everything you can to achieve a goal, turn the situation over to the divine. Let spirit work its magic for you. Surrender unhealthy relationships. Let go of relationships that don't serve you, including unavailable or toxic people. You deserve to be treasured by others and to be surrounded by positive people. Okay? Surrender resentments. Holding on to resentments only poisons you. Try to forgive others for their shortcomings and keep moving forward towards positive situations in life. So, um, that got a little bit more specific, okay, in terms of the relationship issues that we were talking about, in terms of the contention that we were talking about, in terms of the root of the emotions that we were talking about. Okay, so for some people, um, the whatever the argument is, whatever comes up is not this is not the first time it happens. This is a continuation of something bigger, like the mermaid card was talking about. um, Part of these resentments are things left unspoken for a very long time, and so in some situations I can see how the card would say that, like, it may be time to break off from a situation, and that may be the piece that comes from that justice card that we were talking about before. For others, it feels like more so that things need to be worked out, that things need to be spoken about, that things, um people need to stop looking at each other as enemies and as, um like, yeah, coming from different sides. I need to just recognize what side you're on, which is the same side, and get to the heart of, like, why we're at this place to begin with. Okay. If you try to do this spirit card and this person is not receptive, then it feels like it leads to this. And then that's when you just gotta, you know, allow a situation to just be what it is. But in some situations it feels like we could still try, you know. Let me see if there's anything else from this in terms of okay. Yeah, so yeah, in some situations it's a breakup week, and that's interesting. um I didn't think that's where the first cards were going necessarily, but in some cases, and then the helicopter is back. Okay. Yeah, if you are fighting too much in your relationship, if shit is getting too contentious, then just leave. If this is the week where things peak, then then this is your sign to just let it go. And this is like for two or three very specific people. Okay, then yes. Let's get some charms and see what other specific things may come up this week. All right, I'm gonna shuffle, y'all. You know it's a little loud. Okay. Okay. It's funny because it's just giving more of the same energy. So we have the eye of Ra and the dragon, which again is feeling like specific things to happen this week. Um, just leading me back to like being mindful of things that you're popping off about, being mindful of what gets your anger, what gets your energy. You know what I mean? How much fire are we giving to something? Um, being mindful of where other people's anger is coming from and whether it's worth it to react to it. You know what I mean? We have the starfish, and the starfish in this context, for some reason, this week is giving me adaptable. You know how starfish, when they get like an arm cut off or whatever, they have like another one grow back or however the fuck that works, something like that. But like that's what it's reminding me of. It's reminding me of like a starfish when the arm gets cut off. I don't know why. That's what's making me think of. But it feels like regeneration and like adaptable or like that kind of energy, you know? We also have the starfish next to the love card. So, again, with the energy of like some people, it feels like there's a regeneration that needs to happen with your love or your partnership or in your relationships, right? The love card over the rose also feels like there may be like sweet gestures this week. You may receive flowers or a card or chocolates, or they may do something, your partner may do something, or the person that people person persons that you're dating may do something nice for you or be very thoughtful. You may have other people just doing nice gestures for you, going out of their way for you, things like that this week. We also have the love card next to the key, and um, that felt like the opposite to me, like the other side of the situation, especially with the key on the unhealthy relationships card, right? Again, it being time or energy this week where you start to think about maybe leaving, or where you start to make moves to go, or where you actually um, have a situation where you take a break or you break up or something like that, right? You also have the passport card next to that, so that like lends to that energy. The passport card by itself, though, is given that you may plan a trip this week. You may think about traveling outside of that. You may think about um, leaving the country. You may have to find out you have to travel for work or something like that, or that there may be like an event or situation that you want to travel for that may come up this week. Um, the flower and the leaf, again, bring back that energy of spring to me, of like things growing, of you planting seeds, of there being like newness and things started. So like you may have new projects that you're starting this week. You may have new ideas, like I said before, percolating that you start to like research on or start to make plans on or something like that. You may start, like, I feel like there's a writing aspect to whatever you're doing. So you may start writing down ideas, or um, like writing down your thoughts, or just starting to write again if that's part of like the new idea that you have. We also have the troll as one of the charms. And so um, there's this energy this week of the troll feeling like people trying to like, like this troll energy, people trolling you basically in like real life, either real life, on social media, whatever. And again, with that dragon energy and that eye, we're being wise about where we're putting our energy. We're being wise about, the reactions that we have. And if our reactions are too big or too out of proportion when somebody is trying to push our buttons, then we may need to come back and make amends and apologize, even if that's just for you, even if it's less for them and more for you. We have the angel watching and the sacred heart charm. And it feels like you're guided all the time, but it feels like specifically this whole week, they're very much around you. You have your spiritual team, those who are closest to you, very much like on you. You know what I mean? Like trying to guide you, trying to stop you from doing certain things, trying to um keep you grounded, keep you whole and sane in ways, you know what I mean? So be mindful of that, call in the help that you need when you feel overwhelmed or when you're getting too hot, or if it's in your practice to pray, then like stop and pray, but just like call on the celestials, because it definitely feels like this week specifically is very, like, they're very around you. It's very guided. They're very like there, like close there. You know what I mean? So utilize that. This is definitely what I feel like the specific things we have going on this week. It lends into the energy that we had going on this week. Again, we had our words of wisdom for this week. Look below the surface of your emotional reactions to know what's really going on. For things are not always as they seem. We got to get to the root of things. Okay. And then I'm just going to pull one more for another word of wisdom. If you do not resolve to be patient and endure tough times, success may appear to you to always be in the future or in another's power. Okay. Interesting. So, um, again, like the wisdom, the knowing that we're moving with this week is very important, right? We don't want to hinder ourselves. We don't want to put ourselves in positions where we're blocking our blessings. And we definitely don't want to self-sabotage, So again, these are the cards we got for this week. Let me know what you think of this reading. I know it's a little bit different from our other week ahead readings, but I want to keep it a little bit short. And I feel like this was really concise. So, y'all let me know what you think of the reading. If you have another reading, I'll see you in the next pile. If not, if you'd like to get your own reading, definitely book with me, wildheartbotanica.com. Follow me on all the platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and I will see y'all next time. Welcome in pile 2 to your tiny week ahead reading. You picked the Dawn card. Let's get into your energy for this week. So, the words of wisdom is what we'll start with. Do not be discouraged if things look dark and hopeless. The sun rises each day, resolving new possibilities and renewed hope. Okay, let's get into your energy for the week. So, we have Meteor, Son of Earth, that was actually first, and then the Law, Justice card. So the energy of your week definitely feels like there's a leadership aspect to this week. There's um, this, like, you have the torch being carried in both of these cards, so it feels like the first thing I heard was like carrying the torch, so it feels like there's definitely taking on responsibility or leadership, taking on more this week. There may be parts of you that feel like you're doubting if you are able to do it. There may also be choices that you have to make. It's like this energy of like having to either bear a large responsibility or having to make heavy choices, or having to do something that's different from what other people want you to do. We have this person in the middle who's kind of diving into this pool, and these people around him that are, or them, that's being very critical or look very angry or frustrated and whatever they're saying. It seems like they're yelling at this person, right? So it feels like there's energy this week where you may have to either defy what others want you to do in the choices or decisions or movements that you have to make, or you have to take up a role of leadership in a way that looks different than other people took it up or how it was done before. And it definitely feels like this energy of there's a weight to this week for you, pal, too. There definitely feels like a weight to it. And like it said, even though things may feel heavy, the sun rises each day. So, like, although whatever you have to do may feel weighted, it feels as though there's, once you make the decision, there's a lightness, but also like once you step into the power of making this decision, you know what I mean? Um, there's a light that comes out of it. You know what I mean? Like with every shadow, there's a light. And so it feels a little bit like that. So let's pull a few more cards and see um, if there's anything else in terms of energy that we need to get into. Okay. So I feel like with this ocean card and the emperor card that we just got, it just lends more into the energy that we have. Even in this ocean card, we have this person that's by themselves, right? You have other people in these other two cards, and then you have this other person. It feels like once you move past or you've taken on the ownership of whatever it is, you've taken on the leadership, you've made the decisions and moved past. We have um, flow. We have tangible outcome, where you have the coins in your hand, you have the growth from the flower in your other hand. So it feels like you you've made you've made growth. You know what I mean? Like, and not only made growth, but you're more confident in yourself in this position, right? And we have the emperor card that just lends to that. The emperor is um the the key kind of masculine figure in the deck, right? He is the king. He knows when to move and when to go to war and when to not go to war. He rules his kingdom in a way that allows him to keep his kingdom and for his people to thrive. So he thinks about himself as well as the others around him. You know what I mean? And it feels like once you move into that energy, whether it's making the choice that you have to make or sitting in the position that you have to sit in, or taking on the responsibility that you have to take on, that this will be the outcome of that kind of energy, So it definitely feels like, and even the two at the end, these cards feel very similar. Like the first card, and this card felt similar. So yeah, it feels like the energy is very strong this week, right? The energy is given very Leo, very like Capricorn type energy. So this was the energy of the week. Let's get into more specific things to look at or to be mindful of this week. Okay, so surrender your attachment to results. The formula for success is to do all you can to make things happen and let go of the results. Holding on too tightly to a desired outcome can sabotage it. Okay. Surrender stress. Take a few deep breaths and exhale the tension you've built up in your body. Let the stress go as you come back to your center. So, we talked a little bit about that already, in terms of things to expect. Um, or excuse me, in terms of the energy for this week, in terms of the things to expect, I feel like the more tightly you hold on to whatever it is you have to do in a way that hinders you from actually making a decision, the more stress you'll cause yourself, right? So like that's something to pay attention to this week. Um, we have to kind of set it and forget it. And if you're moving from your best self and your intentions and really your intuition in terms of what you should do or how you should do it, because you've already been put in a position to do it, meaning that you have the tools to be able to make either the right decision or to move in ways that you're being asked to move or whatever it is right now, then like, sit in that, right? That's why we then have surrender your fear of change. The universe is reminding you that you are cared for always. Okay. Whether you're afraid of change in your job, your health, or relationship, or if you fear aging or death, repeat this affirmation: I have faith that all is well. And no matter what step you're in this process, whether it's a part of you like just realizing the choices that you have to make, or you really having to be at the end of it and like having to like tell, or sit in whatever your decision is, or if it's a situation where, like I said, you have to take on responsibility of something that you haven't had to do before, or be in a position that you haven't had to be before. You're being put here for a reason, and it's not to make you fail. It's not to prove to you that you can fail. It's to prove to you that you can actually thrive in it, but you have to believe that you can. Okay. And it feels like that's part of the energy of this week, is like belief in yourself and reminding yourself that you're okay, even in the moments that you may not feel the most okay. Okay. Um, we then have surrender to the beauty of the natural world. Take a relaxing break and spend time in nature. Replenish yourself by feeling the beauty and ecstasy there. So there's ways in which, part of what we need to do this week is get the fuck outside. We need to take a break. We need to step back from the things that we have to do or decisions we have to make or whatever that is. We need to realize that we are a small part of this earth, and part of getting outside and getting into some spaces that are bigger than you will help you do that. um, Watching animals helps you get outside of yourself and stop thinking about like what the fuck you got going on. You know, sitting under the sunlight and boosting your vitamin D and your pineal gland, like this is all part of like what can help you reduce your stress levels and like the cortisol and things that are just overworked right now. So that's part of what we can do in terms of things to look out for this week. Let me get some charms and see anything else specific that may come up. One more thing I wanted to say about the nature card that we got is that in the dawn card, number one, we have the dawn and we have nature. Okay. But we also have don't be discouraged if things look dark and hopeless. And part of what nature can also do is remind you of the light, right? Remind you that after the darkness comes light, literally after night comes the sun. So that's just something else that came to mind um, as I was pulling the charms or pulling out the charms. So let's get into the charms. Okay, getting into our charms, you have a lot of water energy this week. We have a mermaid, we have a dolphin, we have the steering ship, the steering wheel of a ship. We have the Aquarius um, zodiac sign, which are these like water lines. So it just feels like there's so much water energy this week. So part of what may come up this week is like you may cry. You may you may feel overwhelmed this week. You may start to cry a little bit. It feels like you may take a lot of showers or want to take baths or like um want to kind of just like dip your face in something um to kind of just refresh. It's kind of how it feels. Also drink a lot of water this week. Make sure you're drinking water. Don't dehydrate yourself. It feels like you might do that when you're stressed, so don't do that. That may also be why the tea kettle came up. I thought something else with the teapot actually, but now I'm thinking that the teapot might have come out because you need to drink water. You definitely need to make sure you drink water this week. Um, you have this horse as well, and the horse and the mermaid were feeling. The mermaid felt like Little Mermaid to me, right? And the horse was given like a gallop away, like wild horses. So there's this aspect of you wanting to be free this week, you wanting to have your own space and have be with your own energy. And that may be also why the nature world card comes out, because that's part of how you can be in your own dynamic and um, kind of just feel the freeness that you need to feel, especially if you have to take on some kind of responsibilities or the leadership position that we were talking about earlier, and that is kind of overwhelming you or a little bit stressful, then like again, um, having these moments where you are able to break out and be yourself and just kind of sit is great. We also have the horse and the mermaid bringing us back to those other two cards that we're talking about, having to do things your own way or make your own choices that other people may not necessarily be down with. And so I feel like this is just validation that like part of what is coming up this week is you having to be independent and you having to think for yourself and do for yourself and steer your ship kind of energy is what I'm getting. Also, in the literal sense of all of this, you may go to the beach, right? You may be in the ocean. You may be wanting to get to the beach or the ocean this week. If you are watching this when I'm doing this, which is 8/11, be careful of the rip currents that I've heard about along the East Coast. If you are on the East Coast, just be mindful. You may not need to get in the water to get the beach energy. Okay. So, also, and then we have the leaf. And that just again validates for me that we need to get the fuck outside. So make sure you're getting outside this week. even if it's a little bit of outside time, even if it's watching something about outside. If you can't get outside, open the window, open the blinds, turn on some nature things. Okay, so that is what we're getting for the specifics of this week. We already had our words of wisdom for this week. I'm gonna pull one more card for a word of wisdom, and then we are going to close. So we have the game changer. How confident you feel about magic and change, especially your ability to magically change yourself and your situation, is crucial. Okay. And again, um, to me, especially how you feel about your magic, right? Your decisions, your life, your choices are all your own. And so you really have to own your shit this week. You really have to own who you are and what you're doing and what you're capable of. And this week is pushing you to do that because you're ready for it and you're able to, right? The other thing is I just saw, I didn't realize this before. It blended in so well. There's a little crystal that was on the surrender stress card. So if you are somebody who works with crystals or crystal energy, definitely put your crystals in your pocket this week, put them in your bra, put them in your purse, put them in your bed to go to sleep. Utilize the crystal energy to, like, do whatever it is it needs to help you do, whether it's to make the decisions you need to make or to have confidence in yourself or to be less stressed or whatever it is, especially less stressed since that's the card that it was on. Okay, so this is the energy I'm getting for y'all pile two. I hope that this makes sense. Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, follow me on all the platforms. If you'd like your own reading, you can book at wildheartbotanica.com. And if you picked another pile, I will see you there. Otherwise, thank you for reading with me, and I will see y'all next time. Welcome in pile three to your tiny week ahead reading. Let's get into your cards, starting with the card that you chose, the wounded. This is actually your words of wisdom for the week. So, the wounded. Be gentle with yourself and others because we all have been wounded in some way. And a wound will always cry out to be healed. Okay. That's your words of wisdom. Let's get into your energy for the week. So we have the Four of Water, Moat, Nine of Fire, Radiance, Volcano, Eight of Fire, Cyclone, the Ten of Air, and Virgin Receptivity. So first thoughts in terms of the energy of your week, it definitely feels like a lot, right? This is going to be a really emotional week for you. We started off with the wounded card, which talked about, being gentle with yourself. And part of you being gentle with yourself with these cards feels like you're very, very open, right? You're very emotional this week. You may be extremely sensitive to anything people say or do, or anything like sounds or noise. It just feels like you're just open, like you were just wide open this week, right? The receptivity card is definitely lending to that energy with the Four of Water. And it just feels like this person in the Four of Water is just completely engulfed in everything going on in their head, everything they feel, every thought that they have. Everything just feels that much more intense this week. And then you have these very intense fire cards. And it just feels like heightened. Like the energy of this week is heightened. The energy of this week is emotional. The energy of this week um, can be just a lot for you. Like it feels like the energy this week could definitely be a lot for you. So, like it says, be gentle with yourself, give yourself time, give yourself space, allow yourself to feel things, bubble up your energy so that you're not taking on too much of other people's energy and feeling too much of other people's shit. It definitely feels like this pile of people are definitely empathic, and your energy field is just open, like it just super duper open. Okay, so let's pull some more cards and see um, if there's any more energy that we need to get into this week. Okay, so we have the Mother of Air and then the Six of Earth harvest. So it feels like a little bit more of the energy of this week. Part of how you can help yourself, it feels like this week, is adding the energy of affirmation, right? Like speaking life over yourself, but specifically with your words because it's the Mother of Air. So it's like speaking life over yourself. It's what you listen to, it's what you say. So like affirming the things that you don't necessarily feel right now yourself. Um, Affirming the ways in which you want to feel that you may not necessarily feel. Also, with the harvest card, the energy of this week has to do with like what you input, like what you're eating. Part of what may make you feel more sensitive or more overload is part of what you're ingesting. So if we are feeling out of whack, or if we want to bring ourselves back together, then part of what we need to do this week for pile 3 is to like eat well, eat whole, like eat good. You know what I mean? Eat things that are whole meals, eat things that are um, from the earth, that like um, are good for you. It's like that to me is part of the energy this week. Also, we have this. I don't even know if that may be a flower around her womb space. So part of why you may be feeling extra emotional may have to do with either your cycle or your hormones or something to do specifically with your womb space. Okay. So just pay attention to that as well. Let's get into specific things that may come up this week. Okay. Using the power of the surrender cards, we're going to see specifically what may come up for pile 3 this week. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. So, surrender to the magic of who you are. We all have magic in us, even the mundane aspects of life. Remember that you are a magical being with a uniqueness, with a uniqueness and worth that come from being just you. Surrender to wonder and awe. Open to the magic of every moment and sense the awe and wonder in life. This attitude will keep you connected to the ecstasy and flow. Surrender to your full power. Your life is calling for you to step into your full power rather than play it small. Surrender to complete healing. Open fully to the loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. And then on the bottom of this, you have surrender to miracles. Be open to miracles occurring in your life. Feel and know that these events are real. Let go of any resistance and banish any doubt that the miracles can happen. Okay, so even though we have a lot of emotion and like what may seem like turmoil going on this week, it also feels like there is a lot of goodness coming out of this or to be expected. And this almost feels almost like Night of the Dark Soul kind of energy. Like we're being pushed through this like this spiritual awakening, right? To like push you into your full self. That's part of why things are more emotional. That's part of why you may feel more sensitive, because this week is a week where like you are really being pushed to ascend in ways. And like, I'm not sure why it's this week of all the weeks, but this is what's happening. Like it's very specific that this is what's happening. In terms of, and it's just magic everywhere, like magic here, magic there, you're the magic, 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 right? So like um and even the miracles on the bottom, it's just like part of maybe part okay, I'm getting a little bit of this. Part of the sensitivity, part of what you're feeling is your power and your recognition of your power, right? But then that's like this need to regulate, right? There's like this need to regulate it. And also in regulating and recognizing it, you're recognizing your power in general, which helps you to like realize what more magic you have inside you, or like what more gifts you have to present. And I feel like all of that is coming up this week. So it sounds like a lot, and I get that, but I feel like it'll make sense 7 days from now. So let's pull some charms and see what else specifically may be coming up. Okay. So we actually have two Leo charms and the Chariot, a spider, the moon. We have the Sun card, which is another Leo card. So it's a lot of big Leo energy. So like a lot of big feelings, a lot of big emotions, um, but a lot of courage and strength and like pride in yourself and confidence in yourself. And like these are things that we're going through and bringing in, right? Then we have the bat under the Sacred Heart. And so again, like the words of wisdom were telling us about being gentle with ourselves. It feels like there's a need to go within, and there's some things that um, are being brought up this week that we need to deal with within ourselves. Only we can mend this wound, or like in terms of the complete healing that we have down here, only we can like love ourselves in a way that this wound or the things that come up um, need us to move through them, heal them, work with them kind of energy this week. Um, the I don't know why the rubber ducky feels, and I always think of this as a rubber ducky, but it feels like inner child energy. So part of what may come up with the Sacred Heart in terms of the emotional work that we're doing with ourselves, with the bat, like internal very solitary, may have to do with like inner child things that come up this week. We have the moon, which we already talked about, the emotions that we're moving through, the phases of those emotions that we're moving through, that come up this week. And so I feel like specifically that's part of what we're doing. We're crying, we're journaling, we're talking to ourselves, because it feels like a lot of this is internal and individual, right? There are ways in which we can like talk about it and move through it with people, but a lot of it is really subject to you and like what you're willing to open up and like what you're willing to dig through. Some of the other piles we talked about digging through emotions too. So like if you picked another pile, this may really resonate in terms of like having to dig through things. And I feel like that's part of where the spider comes up, because it feels like there's like a web of emotions and things are kind of entangled. So they feel a little bit bigger than they are. And like there's, ways that we have to kind of pull threads and see what needs to be worked on now and move that way and move through that. And then also that lends to the Chariot card energy and the balance needed to move through these actual things that we're um sussing through. And it feels like it was part of why we're sussing through this and getting through the darkness of this is to get back to our magic, right? And I feel like that's what brings me back to the starfish and the sun card. Like, um, it's like moving through these darker spaces, being gentle and loving with ourselves, so that we can get back to our power, our confidence, our magic, our wholeness, in a sense. Okay, so this is what comes up for me for pile 3 for this week. Like I said, these were our words of wisdom for this week. I'm gonna pull one more card for words of wisdom for this week, and then we're gonna wrap up our reading. So the free spirit. You can only change yourself. Now is the time to unleash your free spirit, not try to blend in and be the same as everybody else. So that is our last card. Um, I hope this makes a lot of sense to y'all. Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, follow all. Um, Follow me on all the platforms. And if you'd like your own reading, book at wildheartbotanica.com. And otherwise, thank y'all for reading with me, and I will see you in the next reading.